Hello, welcome back to Thursday's Public Relations podcast. So the whole format has changed if you missed on Tuesday. Now what I'm doing is I'm doing a very brief newsletter in the PRBites newsletter where I just cover the core points so that it's something that you can just digest very quickly. It's got the links in there. And then I'm discussing things in more detail in the podcast as I am doing right now. So let's have a look at what I was going to cover in Thursday's podcast. So the first one was about a bit of a backlash over the use of AI by Coca-Cola and what we can perhaps learn from that. And then I'm going to round up with this week's comms conundrum. What would you do in this fictional comms scenario where you have to choose between one of two options? Let's start off with Coca-Cola. And they've come out with their Christmas ad, just like everyone else is doing at the moment. And they're getting criticised for using artificial intelligence in it. In fact, when you watch the video, you can see various things that are wrong with it, such as wheels not moving on the lorry and things like that. But the backlash has mainly come from the creative industries, saying that AI is just going to take everything away from artists and people who create stories. There was one particular person on X who said, "Fun fact, Coca-Cola is red because it's made from the blood of out-of-work artists." Well, Coca-Cola have responded with a pretty dry statement. What they said was this: the Coca-Cola company has celebrated a long history of capturing the magic of holidays in content, film, events, and retail activations for decades around the globe. We're always exploring new ways to connect with consumers and experiment with different approaches. This year, we've crafted films through a collaboration of human storytellers and the power of generative AI. Coca-Cola will always remain dedicated to creating the highest level of work at the intersection of human creativity and technology. I mean, apart from the fact that it's about as cold as you can get, I think there's a few things that you can kind of draw out of this. Firstly, when you look at the controversy around this, it does indeed seem to be coming from advertisers and creatives rather than the general public. I haven't seen too much going on from that, apart from a bit of criticism about the fact that the AI has not got things perfect. So for starters, is this actually affecting your core target market? We talked about this before, because if the only people who are getting angry are people that aren't necessarily relevant to who's going to be buying your products en masse, then it may not be so critical. The next thing is that some people are always going to be upset by things. So while some people may look at AI and go, "Oh, that's curious, that's amazing what AI can do now," other people are always going to criticize it. So as usual, it's about going, well, in my marketplace, how are people going to react to this? What are the people who are going to be curious going to say? What are the people who are going to be critical going to say? And of course, who are those people? But I think there's a wider picture here, and that is how people generally are perceiving AI ads, because Coca-Cola isn't the only organization that has received a bit of backlash from this, and not just in the creative communities. And the problem, I think, is when you look at the criticism, to kind of sum it up, is that people feel that AI is cheap. You know, when people in the past would put a lot of effort into a Christmas ad to make it really good and beautifully decorated sets and the Santa Claus and all that, it felt like they were putting in real effort for this special occasion. But when AI is used, it feels like they just pressed a button and said, just do this. So it feels like it's cheapening the whole occasion. It's a bit like it's interesting to see the rise of AI influencers. And the advantage of them is that they're unbelievably cheap and they're always on message. But the problem is, by being always on message, they're never going to be authentic in the way that a human would be. That means that people devalue them. So people are currently devaluing AI. So my take on this is that if you're using AI, you need to be thinking about how your audience are going to react. And you need to think about how prominent you want to make it. Coca-Cola didn't hide from saying that this is AI. They didn't even soften the fact that it was. But perhaps in your market, while using AI is incredibly useful, and I certainly use it, maybe it's worth keeping it a bit more under the radar. I've included a link to Adweek's coverage of Coca-Cola's campaign in the newsletter. You can get a link on that if you are subscribed to the newsletter. Okay, let's round up with the comms conundrum, shall we? This was incredibly popular. I was really surprised with it. The last time I did a survey, people weren't particularly interested in these comms conundrums, like almost dropped it. but they've become incredibly popular, and pretty much everyone who took part in the survey said that they either didn't mind it or they loved it. So there was no criticism at all. So let me run through this week's comms conundrum. Imagine this. You are managing crisis communications for a major national retailer known for its wide range of affordable furniture. And there's been a highly publicised safety issue that has arisen after a viral video showed one of the store's best-selling bookshelves collapsed and injured a child. The product's already been pulled from shelves, but the story is spreading fast with accusations of negligence trending on social media, and that doesn't seem to be dying down. The CEO comes to you. They walk into your office and they say, your job is to protect this company's reputation. I don't care how you do it. I just want you to do it and make sure that the company's reputation is not harmed. As always, there are lots of ways you could tackle this in the real world, but you must pick just one of the following options for this scenario. Which one do you pick, and importantly, why? Option 1, do you launch a proactive media campaign apologising for the issue, including a video from the CEO and a recall with safety tips for consumers to ensure they don't get injured in the meantime? Or do you, number 2, issue a lower profile statement only, acknowledging the problem and saying that all affected customers will be contacted directly, emphasising the company's good safety record? What would you do? So first one, do you launch that sort of out there, proactive media campaign, getting the CEO on, apologising for the issue? Or do you issue a low profile statement, just acknowledging the problem and saying that all affected customers will be contacted directly, emphasising the company's good safety record? This is what I think I would do, but you are always welcome to disagree with me. I think the problem you face with option 1 is that it's likely to draw a lot of attention to the issue. It may appear like the brand is overcompensating and potentially cause consumers who haven't heard about the incident to worry about the safety of other products. However, the benefit is that it demonstrates transparency and a strong commitment to customer safety, which could ultimately rebuild trust. And by taking this approach, that we tackle any problems that arise fast, we're also saying that everything else is good because we're tackling this problem. This is the only problem we've got. With option 2, the risk, I think, lies in appearing like the company is trying to avoid the issue. We've already seen that social media comments are not dying down, so it's not fading away. And with option 2, it avoids escalating the story. The lack of a bold statement sends a message that you don't care. So for me, option 1 is the better choice here. Transparency and accountability, even while taking that initial knock, is more likely to protect the long-term reputation of the company than being evasive. But what do you think? What would you do in that situation? Remember, you have to pick from those 2 options, but what would you do and why would you do it that particular way? What would be your choice of options? I always love to hear from you. You can always connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Richard Midson, Midson. Feel free to direct message me, connect with me. I love hearing from you. Also, I'm always interested in hearing how I can improve the newsletter and the podcast. As I say, it's had a big change this week, so I want to know what you need, whether it's working, how I can improve it, and that sort of thing. And finally, also, don't forget, if you want to share the podcast, let other people know about it, get other people involved in the conversation, particularly people that you think have got something that they could add, a technique or discuss something or bring a real insight, then do let them know. They can go to the publicrelationspodcast.com and subscribe to the newsletter on there, or subscribe to the podcast as well. And I would love to get their thoughts too, as well as yours. Okay, that's it for week 1 of this new format. Let me know what you thought. Really interested to know. I hope you have a lovely weekend. And I'll speak to you next week. Bye for now.